Ghana experienced a tragedy on the 6th of August, which happens to be a Wednesday, and we were all in shock. And to a large extent, we are still in shock because this is something of one of its kind. We've never experienced something of this sort, whereby there's a helicopter that is actually involved in an accident in this gruesome and very, very tragic way. And it's shocking. It's sending shockwaves across the nation. I mean, the atmosphere is relatively silent. People are still processing what happened, and it is sending a whole lot of messages to people, whether spiritually, psychologically, physically. It's like there's a rude awakening that this whole thing has sent to most of us concerning how fragile life can be. And it's something that we are all trying to sort of find ways to process it. We are still in the process of finding solutions and actually really coming to terms with the fact that what actually happened on the 6th of August 2025. And even outside of the accident, there were other accidents that happened in Ghana as well. Some happened at Kumasi Road. Some also happened at Asamankasi. And then a place got burned in the northern region in the same day. So that day, personally, I don't think I would like to remember that day ever, because someone was actually asking me, and I was like, Charlie, I wish I had answers to this whole thing, because I couldn't process it, because this is first of its kind. I've never experienced this thing before, and I hope and I pray that it will never repeat itself in the history of Ghana. I mean, we've been in this nation whereby we've lost a certain president before. That was quite tragic as well. But this one is also another layer of tragedy, losing eight solid men, able men that were actually on the forefront to actually do something that will benefit the nation, right? So there's a lot actually going on, and the president has declared a 3 days state of mourning for the nation, which started yesterday on the Thursday, 7th of August. That will be the laying of flowers and lighting of candles. Yesterday, the government officials and top officials, statesmen, were at the forecourt of the presidency, that's the Flagstaff House, to actually drop their flowers and in memory of the lost soldiers. Now, today happens to be Friday, 18th of August, 2025, and I mean, there's going to be a laying of flowers and lighting of candles at the ceremonial garden at the front of the presidency from 1 p.m. So as I'm talking to you, I believe that it's still ongoing. And we've seen a lot of people, a lot of dignitaries passing through. We've seen Dr. Mahmoud Baumia has been there. We've seen a heartbreaking situation whereby Sam George was visibly crying, and he has to be led out of the place to... And then Vice Lady was also in tears. And, anyway, let me continue. So that's for today, right? I nearly got lost because, Charlie, there's a lot that's actually happening there. And but let me continue before I come back to it again, okay? So on the Saturday, that's tomorrow, on the 9th of August 2025, there will be an evening of reflections and memorials, exactly at 5 p.m. at the forecourt of the State House. So that's the plan for the 3-day state of mourning for the nation. And like I said, there's a lot going on at the moment in front of the forecourt of the Flagstaff House. A lot of dignitaries have been there, a lot of sorrows, a lot of emotions. The children, the family, the friends of these people, these wonderful people that lost their life, have been there. And there's a lot of press men also trying to get the news to actually spread it across the nation for people to know how the feeling has actually been. But in all of this, I don't know how best you think about it, or what you think about this whole thing. What do you think is the best way to actually remedy this, or find the right way to actually make sure that the investigations that will go into this is accurate and factual? Because we don't want to repeat this thing in the history of Ghana ever again. Never again. Like it's a terrible feeling. It's a terrible feeling. So yesterday around 9 p.m. the president, John Dramani Mahama, His Excellency, addressed the nation. He addressed the nation, and he looked visibly in pain. It looks like he has not slept for days. And even though he was trying as much as possible to actually man up and then speak the way he was supposed to speak, you could actually see that he was just in agony, and it's sort of, I don't know. I think it's in layers with how he's feeling, even though I'm not there. But I feel because from the information we gathered from one of the women at the Flagstaff House, or that was close to the presidency, he spoke on TV3, and she was talking about the fact that the president was supposed to be on that helicopter. And then there was an issue, there was a change of plan because there was a church that invited him to a program. So the president's wife was on his neck to actually shun that or just avoid that. Let me explain well. So the president was supposed to go to the program. That's the program that took the helicopter to that place, or the program that ended up in a tragic way. The program led to the death of the 8 people. He was supposed to be a part of them. And allegedly, he was supposed to go to that program. And then after there, he will continue from there to Cote d'Ivoire to join them in something that really is relating to their state, something like that. And then change of plan all of a sudden, because there was a church that invited him to the program, and for some odd reason, he opted for the church. I'm saying for some odd reason, because in these situations, he's a president, so normally he will perhaps would like to honor what the nation or that involves his job rather than going to the church. But for some odd reason, from what the general overseer of the church that invited him to the program was saying in one of his videos, it was his wife that actually convinced him. Like, the president actually wanted to go. He wanted to join the people that were on their route to where the unfortunate incident happened. But the wife actually stood on her grounds, and then there was change of plan. So if he's visibly in distraught, it could be that the fact that he's just thinking, like, it could have been him, and then the wife was also visibly like crying, because these are their close friends. These are people that they work hand in hand with. They perhaps hear from every day, and take away their state responsibilities. These are human beings that they've built ties and connections with these people they work with. So they've worked in government for so many years. So losing them in this sort of way is something else. I don't know. I'm not too sure how they are going to feel. Even us from afar is not easy. How much more these people that are close to him. So I think it's difficult. But I mean, the good news is I learned the cockpit recordings for the helicopter has been found, and allegedly it's supposed to sort of aid the investigation team to track the recording and then actually find out, or at least it will lead to a clue to what actually caused the death, because there's communication between the helicopter and maybe their service center. So at least they can track it and know what actually led to the death or led to the accident. So that is, I mean, a little bit of hope or a little bit of good news that we've had so far about this situation. And I learned also that their bodies have been, parts of their remains have been sent to South Africa to actually assist with autopsy to know who is this person. To really find out who is the DNA the correlation between their DNA, and then also in all its forms to actually aid in the investigations process. So I don't know. Me personally, I don't know why this thing has, and it go me par. Like, I don't know. I'm affected so much by this, and I'm even struggling to speak the best way I can speak, because I don't know. It's something else. So my sincere condolences to the family, and we hope that whatever they've lost, they will find the strength. God will give them the strength to actually go through this. The last time I think was yesterday, I was talking to a friend, and he was like, we were talking about this issue, and he was like, look, he thinks human beings, we are the least, we are the most vulnerable, because when you are dealing with a lion has a form of defense mechanism. When you are dealing with a snake, he has a form of defense mechanism. Like most animals have a form of defense mechanism in case there is. But in the case of us, in case of human beings, our defense mechanisms are just extensions of technologies that we've made. And sometimes when you are going somewhere and then you are not well prepared to actually meet some kind of disaster that requires for you to pull some of these things and you don't take it along, then it's like you, the human being, like without any external factors or without any external tool or equipment or ammunition, basically you are very vulnerable. We are all vulnerable in a certain way. So I think that our best defense is in the Lord. Our best defense is God. Not God, my God, but a God that you know and trust and you've built a good connection with. And then you know very well that this is a God that in case of anything, you can actually rely on. That's why, personally, I feel like religion plays a very good role in the system of this country. No matter how you look at it, no matter how it's delicate to actually talk about these things and how religions have actually, how most churches are taking over the nation or mosque. There's a reason, and we must understand that sometimes that's the only form of defense mechanism that most people can afford. Okay, the only form of defense mechanism, okay, that most people in this country can afford is God. Okay, like I said, some people can afford a form of defense mechanism, maybe buy ammunition or buy other things to protect them, because as human beings in our raw nature, without any tool or equipment, we are very vulnerable. We are very, very vulnerable because when you take an animal, many form of animals, plenty animals get a form of defense mechanism. When you take a lion, they have a defense mechanism. When you take a porcupine, they have a form of defense mechanism. When you take, even when you take birds, they can fly away from situation. I mean, in this situation, like the helicopter issue, if it was a bird, before the helicopter will hit the ground, they will fly out. But this is us. We are vulnerable, and sometimes when you are going to such places and then you're not expecting some of these things to happen, how are you going to be well prepared? Because it's not like you are expecting, like you won't expect, or you even carry the needed stuff. Maybe if they thought that there's going to be a possibility of this happening, maybe they would take along a parachute. Because that's sometimes we have devised some things, and we have used our mind to actually make certain things that are actually going to make us a bit safe. But in a situation like this, that you don't expect this, the true state of the human condition comes to bear and realize that the only true defense mechanism is your God. The God that you know, the God that you serve, whether it's Allah or whatever God whatever type of God or a higher being that you can connect to and have good relationship with, is the highest defense mechanism you can have in certain situations. And sometimes there are things that we will never understand as humans, and we just have to leave it there. With that one said, I would have to end today's update of what's happening on social media here. The name remains Donald, not Trump. I'll see you on the other side. Peace.